Oops.
Is this a live thing?
Yes.
I'm Adam Manis.
And I'm Peter Martin.
And you're listening to the You'll Hear It podcast.
Music advice coming at you.
Coming at you, streaming at you.
Streaming at you. No, we're not streaming.
We're not streaming.
But
no.
we're going to be talking about streaming.
Yeah, we are going to be talking about streaming, and we're going to be talking about anything that we just played.
No, not at all. But I think it was a fun, we like doing the little intro.
That's kind of part of it, actually. That's a little bit, we'll get into it.
It is part of it because we're improvising, which is what streaming is all about. So yeah, we'll get into that.
So I think the purpose of this episode is we've done so much streaming since the Rona hit.
That's right.
We were not a streaming company before that. We've been a mostly recorded, jazz education content company since the inception. And now, like the rest of the world, we're constantly on Zoom. We're constantly live on YouTube.
There's like 5-year-olds in kindergarten on Zoom, aren't there?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's
My
on.
5-year-olds.
Yeah.
I don't have 5-year-olds anymore, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But we thought we would just share some really important things that we've learned to help musicians that want to up their stream game.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Because I think, we were just in here talking about all the ongoing difficulties we have. But when we look at it, we love to flip things upside down here at Open Studio and here at the You'll Hear It podcast specifically, and look at them from a different lens, look at them from a different direction. And we've put out some really, really edifying and interesting streams, actually. Very proud of the work we've done. And so we realized in talking to each other, we're not experts in this, but we're experts in how to figure this out on the fly in a couple of months and a couple of weeks, and most importantly, kind of keep the content getting out there, because that's really been our priority, has been how do we serve people when we can't play music for them directly? How do we get content for people that are on lockdown that might want to learn how to play jazz better? Yeah, the podcast is great, the lessons, we've got all that stuff, but we were looking for ways to do it even more immediately, help people, connect with people, and really provide what we had for people during lockdown. And live streaming was kind of the channel and the methodology we found.
That's right. And so some of the ways that we live stream, we do so many different kinds of live streams,
yes.
Right? So we'll do like your bog standard Q&A.
Yeah.
We've done plenty of those.
Yep.
We also do concerts, like you do your Friday night shelter in place concert, solo piano concert.
Yeah.
We do things like our listening sesh every Tuesday evening on YouTube. We do a session where you and I just sit down, we listen to a record that we pick, and we do it with our audience, and we talk about it in between tracks, and we discuss the history of it and what we love about it and things like that. We do things like tutorials.
Yep.
We do things like guided practice sessions. We do all kinds of things. Duo concerts where we do remote duos between two different musicians where they'll sort of switch off.
Yep. Kind of remote situations with a guest.
Right. Not playing together because the technology is not quite there yet.
We're not all Jacob Collier, you know what I'm saying? Like, we can't all figure out how to do that on the fly. That much we haven't figured out. You got to go to him for it. He has a tutorial on that.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah. But I think the thing, and this really can be our first main point with this, is like, you have to be open to improvisation with streaming. Like, that is an important thing. It is an immediate medium. This is not for people that want to script everything out because it's live. It's just like doing a concert, but because we like to bring the spirit of improvisation to everything that we do, we've tried a bunch of different things, and most of them have actually kind of stuck. We've let a few things fall by the wayside because you can't do everything. But I think going into this, we made the decision, along with the other Open Studio artists, that we're going to try some things and see what brought value to folks, and then really start to double, triple, quadruple down on those.
So what are the things that matter when you're streaming? I think there's like a kind of a top 5 things that really make the difference between a good stream and a bad stream. The first, I think, is obvious.
Listen. No, is that going to be?
Well, kind of.
Yeah,
it's content. It's
content.
No matter how quality your stream is,
right?
Matter how good your cameras look and how great your audio sounds, and if you are talking about terrible stuff,
right,
it's not going to be good.
You got to stick with your wheelhouse. You got to stick with what you know.
That's right.
You have to be authentic. I mean,
look,
we believe this deeply in everything that we do. And that's what this podcast is about, is listening, but it's really about authenticity. We're talking about stuff that we love, that we know, and that we're passionate about, and that you guys are, the listeners, as well. So that doesn't change with live streaming, but what it does is live streaming exposes if you're not being authentic, because with editing, with selective use of footage, with color grading, with all these different technological things that we can do, you can kind of wash over some and make things seem authentic that aren't. In live streaming, you can't, because it's just like you're naked there on stage. Well, you're not actually naked. That's a different kind of live streaming that we are not involved in. But you are who you are. And so the content, to your point, that you're presenting better be an area. You don't have to be the world's foremost expert.
Oh, certainly not.
No, but I mean, but it has to be something that you know, that you bring value to, and that you're passionate about.
That's
really.
Right. Yeah, it has to. I mean, authentic is the word of the day for that.
And I love that we started with this with content, because I know a lot of people are thinking, oh, is it what kind of mic that you have? Is it what headphones? Is it what streaming platform? Not at all. Like, that's all important, but not nearly as important as what you bring, your heart, your spirit. I mean, you could just, and we've done this many times, you know, we've gotten with the phone, and sometimes people see the equipment, they're like, oh my God, how did you do this? And sometimes, you know, we're like, something's not working or whatever, and we're just sitting there holding the phone and talking to it and using the built-in mic. You're better off doing that and speaking from your heart, and really trying to put something great out into the world to the best of your abilities, authentic content that resonates with you and your audience, than you are to have the perfect setup and you're not authentic with your content.
Right. I would say the other thing to do, really the first thing you could do to up your quality is to really, you know, make sure that you have the highest quality internet streaming that you can get. Get your Ethernet game together. Everything you do.
Oh, how do you hear about Ethernet? That's an interesting thing. I remember.
Well, I did a lot of research.
You knew a guy, right?
No, you hit me to this, but I mean, I also upped my like, as soon as this went down, I called up AT&T and I was like, yo, I need whatever you got. Like,
didn't you say they had you on like a 1998 plan? They're like, oh, we just been waiting for you to call.
Yeah.
Oh, you wanted faster internet? We had you on the slow one that costs more. Actually,
do you also want some of those AOL discs to load up with? And I was like, no, I'm good.
I'm good.
No, but like
internet speed,
internet speed, because no matter, again, you get the good mics, you get the good cameras. If you got potato quality internet speed, none of it matters.
It's actually worse, because if you're trying to shove, I mean, it's just like a garden hose. The more information and bits that you're trying to put, and all the better equipment for streaming has more demands. I mean, if you want to stream in 4K and you've got potato level internet, it's going to be no bueno. Well, you're better off just going with your phone in that case.
And in a lot of areas, you know, I got AT&T fiber. It was actually cheaper than what I was paying, and it's like literally 100 times faster than what I was getting.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, so I think the key is just call your internet provider, or, like, look it up, see what your options are now as opposed to even a year or two ago. Yeah. You might be surprised.
And an important thing with streaming, in general, that this really ties into, is you have to have a growth mindset with this, because stuff is changing all the time. It's very dynamic. So a lot of times people will be like, oh, they might look at this and be like, oh, I live in an area where my internet, you can't get fast internet. And that's a big problem in the US, especially. Like, we have one of the worst internet systems of the so-called developed world. I don't know if you knew that.
That's weird. We're kind of the richest country there.
Exactly. Yeah. But don't stop there. Like, a growth mindset is like, well, no, I'm gonna still figure this out. A non-growth mindset is like, oh, I live somewhere, so I can't do streaming. Right. Yes, you can do it from anywhere. You might have to get more creative with your things. And I would just say this, like, and the whole reason I knew about the Ethernet thing and told you, then that's basically to hardwire whatever you're doing as close as possible to your router. And a lot of times people are on Wi-Fi and they're like, oh no, I've got really good Wi-Fi or whatever. Whatever it is never going to be as good as if you're hardwired in. That's true. And so that's the easy. And the only reason I knew this is because I use two things, the growth mindset, but also networking. Like, talk to people that know this stuff.
That's right.
I mean, you can listen to what we're saying, but even take what we're saying that we learned from experts. And when this whole thing started, I was like, man, how can we get our streaming better? And I was thinking, like, do we need better cameras? How do we do this? And I called a friend of mine that works at Lincoln Center, is one of the top engineers there. And he was like, usually he's working all the time, and, he's amazing front of house engineer in some of the biggest halls there, but he was just chilling. There's no live performance. He's like, I'll be glad to talk to you. And he's like, well, streaming is not my expert area. He's like, but I'm gonna call the head of streaming for Lincoln Center. I'll call you right back. He calls me back 20 minutes later and he's like, how's your internet speed? And I was like, come on, man, tell me about the equipment I got to buy. Our internet's fine. We're really fast. It's as good as it can be. And he's like, no. He's like, are you hardwired in? I was like, no, but we got good wire. And he was like, no. He said, how long is your cable? How far away are you physically from your router? He's like, that he said the most important thing is the speed of the internet. He's like, all the other stuff is just like window dressing if you don't have that. And so that's the only reason I knew about it.
No, some of the stuff is counterintuitive. Like the next thing that I would spend money on after the internet would be actually CPU power.
Yes.
Like that is the thing. Again, you can have the nicest camera. You can have the live stream software. You can have all the different angles. And if you have a puny MacBook Air that you're trying to run this on, it's not going to work.
That's right.
It's not going to stream. It's going to look potato quality.
Yep.
It's going to crash. It's going to be bad.
And even if it's working now, there's going to come a time when you're going to want to add another camera angle. You're going to do something. No one ever is like, oh, let me make my quality worse.
Yeah.
So your computer might be okay now, but prepare for the future.
And actually, everything besides this, you can get really good on the cheap. Yeah. So invest in the CPU power.
That's right.
You will not ever be disappointed if you spend money on your CPU power. Then after that, I don't know about you, but I'm not going video even after that. I am going audio after that. I'm spending money next on these little boxes that we've invested in.
Yes.
Our little Focusrites.
Man, we need a sponsorship from Focusrite, man.
We really do. So we use Focusrite on pretty much everything. On the shelter in places.
Yeah.
Well, we have our 2-channel Scarlett. We have our big 16-channel. We have I have a 4-channel at my place that I use for all my live streams.
And these are like $150, right?
Yeah, no, this is what I'm saying. Like you spend money on the CPU, you get better internet, then you can everything else is relatively inexpensive that you can slowly build up over time.
Right.
So go with that Focusrite first. I would say even before microphones, because this is the interface between your microphones, your instruments, your whatever into your computer. So it's really important that you have something reliable and that you meets your needs. We use 2 channels for the podcast. I use 4 channels at home. We use more here in the studio. It just depends on what your needs are. But again, I'd like to overshoot when I buy this stuff. I like to go for what if, again, I'm probably growing this. So what am I going to need 2 years from now?
That's right. And the conceptual thing about audio versus video, it's a little bit counterintuitive, or at least folks are always surprised by they think video. It's video, so the video is more important than the audio. Those two elements, the one that has an outsized proportion on people's perception of how good the stream is when they say is actually audio.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, both are important, but audio is it. If it sounds bad, people are more likely to click off very fast.
And they won't know why. Like actually people will say like, oh, that stream looks terrible. And sometimes you look at it and like, it actually looks okay, but the sound is whack.
That's right.
Or you're out of sync. Well, I don't know if we're going to have a chance to get into that because that gets a little complicated with latency and stuff, but that's important because if you're out of sync with your video and audio, and this is another reason I'm saying, like, don't get overwhelmed by this and be like, oh my God, they're talking about interfaces. I don't have the cables. I can't. A lot of this stuff is hard to order right now. We did have an advantage because a lot of this equipment we had.
It's catching up. It's catching up.
It is catching. It's getting easier. But a lot of you might get frustrated. I can tell you this, if you don't understand all this, and this is going to be our next point, is first of all, start streaming today. If you want to stream, don't wait until you...
Don't wait till you have the perfect
Everyone
system.
has a phone pretty much, and you can stream with just this.
Yep.
The beautiful thing about this is you don't have to worry about latency. Your video and your audio, it's not the greatest, but it's pretty darn good depending on your model of your smartphone.
We stream with these all the time.
We stream with them all the time, and the good thing is if you don't know what you're doing with this other stuff, your audio and video will at least be in sync. And that's a danger once you start going multicam, external cam. Because, we got some great cameras in here, but they have horrible audio. Worse than this, actually. So then you got to get good mics and stuff. And it's all worth it as you do it. But don't let the technology be a barrier,
A next big thing for the audio is a microphone. And so we use the Shure SM7s. These are...
I think we're the only podcasters in the world using these currently, right?
Yeah, I can't believe more podcasters don't use these. No, this is like the podcast microphone.
This is the Joe Rogan mic. Let's call it what it is.
But it's because of the sound that it gets, especially for lower voices like ours.
Yes.
Baritones.
Yes.
And the proximity effect that it has. It's really, really cool. Definitely worth an investment. And remember when our buddy Dr. Chuck started their podcast, that was one of the first things that we advised them to do is like invest in some decent mics next. And you don't have to spend $450 on 2 of these things, each. You can spend, again, a little bit under $100, a little bit over $100. It's going to get you actually about 80% of the way here.
Yeah, what's the Rode over there we have? Is
the
pretty
Rode,
good. That's like a $60 mic.
It's a little Rode $60.
It's probably 80% of this.
It is 80% of this. Yeah, we actually it's a Rode USB mic that we send to our artists who are sheltering in place in New York or other places in the country or the world, and we just advise them to, make sure it's close enough to their face that
Yep.
it doesn't, that it gets picked up. But it sounds really good. It sounds really, really good. So make sure that you're not doing all this stuff. You got your focus right. You got your fancy internet. You got your Wi-Fi. You got your fancy CPU. And then you're just using your laptop mic.
No.
At least get a USB mic.
That's
get
right.
something that gets... What happens is when your mic is all the way over here, you can hear a lot more of the room.
Yeah.
It's harder to hear what I say.
But if it's right here, you're all good.
When you got a nice mic and then you can put it right up against your face, it's like a smooth pat of butter.
It's butter,
Like a
vegan
little-
butter up in there.
Like a little vegan butter.
And actually, if you, if due to budgetary constraints, what you could do is get that Rode USB, that little $60 sucker, use that because it's USB, but you can also get a version that goes into your phone, or we can talk about integrating them. Use your camera from here because
For sure.
the camera's really good on here. The mics are not great on here.
Mics are not great, but you can buy a lightning lav. You can buy any kind of mic that goes into your iPhone.
Yeah. And then you're going to be in sync, and you're going to have some surprisingly good. Then you just got to make sure your content's on point.
Again, yeah. Okay, so that's audio, that's CPU, that's Wi-Fi.
Yep.
What about video? We talked about the iPhone, but what else? What else do we use around here?
Okay, so we're on a bunch of the different platforms because we have not been able to find one streaming platform that can do everything we need. So the big thing with this is be flexible and be ready to learn. There is no one item. I mean, even for professional broadcasting networks and stuff, I've noticed they have to use several different things because they're bringing in remote guests and, in different ways. So I think what we have found is, let's just talk about Zoom first, because Zoom is a little bit unavoidable for
anything.
I mean, not only for talking to people, but it's so useful for some of the GPSs we've done with you and with, all of the GPSs that you do internally, but also even when we've had guests doing GPSs, and even live streaming. If you want to have multiple people on camera from remote locations, Zoom can do things that nobody else can do. And you can go straight out of there pretty simply right to YouTube or Facebook as well, which is nice.
Yeah, but Zoom has some issues.
Zoom has some issues that are very they're not anti-musician. It's just if you go with the default audio settings, you're going to get something that's optimized for voice and not voice coming out of a good mic like this. It is optimized for either talking on your phone with the built-in or really it's more for just the laptop thing, getting rid of background noise and stuff like that.
What you want to do is go in your audio settings in Zoom. There's that little microphone icon. Go to your advanced settings and turn off all of the audio processing. Turn off as much of the, get rid of background noise, of all of that stuff. Just get rid of it. You just want the mic and back and forth, and so that Zoom isn't cutting other people off, and that you're able to get clear. And this works really well actually for instruction. I know a lot of people are teaching over Zoom. Yep. So if you're teaching over Zoom, go check your audio settings, tweak it. There's a ton of great videos that you can check
just
out.
put music settings, playing music, Zoom on YouTube, you'll see some great things. And also turn off the automatic level on anything, I think.
On anything
you're going to do music, that's really optimized for people with crappy mics.
Yep.
And if you don't have a good setup, it's fine to do that. But for music, it never works well.
And really, this is good advice for whatever platform you're on, whether that's YouTube or we use StreamYard, we use Ecamm, all that stuff. Check the video and audio settings and don't just assume that the presets are there to help you for music, because often the presets are there for speaking.
That's right.
So playing music and instruments and going back and forth is a different vibe. And so make sure that your presets are on point for everything.
Yep. Okay, so let's now talk about music, because that's ultimately what we're doing. I think, talking in a live streaming situation, there's a lot of good info out there, and that's a little easier to get to with a good microphone. Yep. And video as far as that. But the music side with the audio is very important. If you're talking about a piano, if you're talking about drums, anything. The great thing and the difficult thing about this for live streaming is, the great part about it and the simple part is it's really no different than trying to record. The process of recording high quality audio in a studio.
That's right.
The way that you capture sound. So all the information that's out there in terms of microphone placement, say for a piano, and using really good quality preamps, and having a really good mix, and being in a room, basically having it sound good.
Yeah, just starting with a good sound.
Yes.
Goes again
to
the
content.
80%. If you have a nice piano. We did that live stream with Fred Hirsch. He's got that amazing piano. He had one microphone on there, and it sounded awesome.
It sounded awesome,
No one was missing anything.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things a lot of hoops you can jump through to try to improve crappy sound, and it's hard, but you're better off getting good pianist, good piano, a good drummer, good drums, and then some really good mics. And then what you're going to be pushing through the streaming system, it's just a matter of making sure there's nothing basically that screws up that sound. So like in the Zoom, it's the audio settings. StreamYard has another setting that we found in there that you have to do a similar thing where you basically just have to have the wherewithal to chase down everything that these streaming systems are doing to in their way of optimizing it for voice. You want to just turn all that off. So you've got a great sound coming in, and then make sure that any kind of optimization is taken off so that you can get that pure sound. And you want that fast internet so that great audio and video can come through.
And for things like MIDI keyboards, like be very aware of the software you're using. We use for a lot of stuff Piano Tech 6, and we got it because it's a very lightweight software. Again, if you don't have the CPU power to support something, it doesn't matter how good it sounds if your computer is constantly glitching, right? And clipping, you hear a clipping sound, which is that like classic, my computer is really struggling to keep up. Streaming is a different game than recording. It takes up even more CPU power. You know, you have your camera on at the same time. It's all being run usually by the same thing. And so just be aware when you're running your MIDI instruments to get something lightweight, light on your CPU load.
Yep. And the thing is too, that's kind of a philosophical approach. Like we've got this super powerful Mac Mini here, probably for what we got that for. This was less than, like, we could have got a really nice looking iMac that visually would have been great. That would have cost more and not been as powerful as this. You've got a crappy little monitor over there, but philosophically we've put the funds that we did have into the CPU power, because like that's kind of what it's about. I mean, if you've got the budget where you can just go crazy on all this, you get the Power Mac or whatever, and you get the incredible power $5,000 iMac. But we all have budgets, and so allocate your money smartly in terms of like, what is the end result? Are you trying to be in a studio where you feel cool and you really like it, or are you trying to get the end result of what the person watching your stream, like, what is it that's important that you want them to be able to experience of your content, and like, what is the most efficient way to get that from point A to point B? Once you start doing that, a lot of these decisions become a little bit clearer in terms of like, okay, if I've got a $500 budget, what do I put that for? If I've got $5,000, you think that that's easier, but not necessarily. You know, if you don't have that goal in mind and know why it is that you're doing this. And really, to that point, I would say that, and I was going to make this as our bonus, but we'll go ahead and put it as our kind of final concept of our tips for how to up your stream game.
I got one more I want to mention.
Okay, good. Well, that'll be the bonus.
Okay, cool.
Okay, good. But that is just that, like, for all the things that we said, what's important is that you do not take on more than you can handle with streaming. Like, you have to be adventurous, but streaming is a little bit binary in that, like, it either works or it doesn't. There's certainly a qualitative part, and we've tried to talk about ways to kind of level up your quality specifically for music, but sometimes it's just a matter of it works or it doesn't. And so if you have everything right, but you miss one element, and the end result of the user not being able to see your great content and everything. So, and then there's a learning curve to it. So if you've made it so convoluted and complicated, and we've fallen prey to this some, although we've got a lot of stuff.
Never.
Possibly. No, but I mean, like, you want to avoid things that are going to keep you from being able to get up. I mean, at a certain point, you got to turn the thing on and be like, hey, I'm Peter Martin, and this is my live stream. Oh my gosh, there's 2 people there. There's 7 people. There's 700. We've done stuff with all those different numbers. But at a certain point, it's you and the camera, and you're trying to help people or entertain them or do whatever. And so you can't put up too many barriers between you and that. Yes, you want your quality to be as good as possible, but until you jump in and start doing this, it's very hard to figure that out.
Let's do our bonus. Hey, put the bonus bell on.
If this is helping you up your stream game. Hey, you know what? If we did this correctly, they're seeing it. If not, we screwed something up and we missed the...
Very possible.
They're seeing it.
Go ahead and put that bonus bell on to get notifications. We go live all the time. Go live with us.
Yes.
The bonus for today is buy yourself a light. We have this little square light here. You can get...
we didn't even talk about light.
No, you can get lights super cheap. They make all the difference. Like we're,
I think that's an $18 light, right?
It's an $18 light. We are going for like a very...
what are we going for?
We're going for kind of a moody look. You got a little shadow on the side of your face. You know what I mean? I got a darkened... rustic in many quotes studio behind me, but it's intentional, at least, you know what I mean? And that happens with the lighting. Buy yourself one of these little square lights. You can get them very cheaply.
LED lights, I think
LED lights, and you can get so much mileage out of it. It's way better. But again, you don't even have to start there. If you're with your iPhone, just make sure that the window is behind your iPhone.
Yeah,
like use natural lighting.
Exactly.
Like you're all good.
Use natural light. Yeah, I would say what the two things, if you're like, okay, I'm overwhelmed, or three things that I would ask you to focus in on that we said today. If you're not gonna be able to grab all this at one time, and we didn't figure this all at one time either, but is up your audio game.
Yep.
First.
Yep.
Internet connection really good, hardwired if possible.
Yep.
Max that out.
Totally.
And pay attention to lighting. Even before you go buy a fancy camera and all that stuff, use your phone and some lighting, or use the outside. And look, don't be afraid to learn. Like a lot of this stuff, we just like went on YouTube and there's so many thoughtful, smart people. But look, if you want to learn about lighting, don't go on YouTube to somebody whose channel they have constantly bad lighting and they're going to tell you about buy these lights. You know what I mean? That's really easy. That's the great thing about this. You can look at people and see what or if it's not the style that you're looking for, don't follow what they're saying, no matter what their name brand is or whatever.
That's right.
Go with the look that you want. Find someone that's been willing to share and that knows how to do it in a live streaming situation.
I love our little, our You'll Hear It Moody look that we got going on here.
Well, this is emergency pandemic version.
Remember
we were in our basements
Moody.
remotely.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for paying attention. I hope you found some of this helpful. You know, this is really lessons that we've learned out of necessity during this time as we've kind of transitioned to do much more live streaming. You can always go to openstudiojazz.com/live to check out our live stream schedule. We're live like all the time.
Yes, and our artists as well. I mean, we got folks down in Brazil, some of our artists that are doing lives, and we're doing remotes, and yeah.
Cool. Until next time.
You'll hear.